The message came at midnight. Station time. Tae-woo was sitting alone in his small room on the diplomatic station when his screen lit up. He had been looking at old photos of Earth, feeling that familiar ache in his chest that always came when he thought of home. The notification sound pulled him back to the present. It was from Lyra. He smiled without thinking. Over the past year, Lyra had become one of his closest friends in the galaxy. She was Valorian, a species known throughout the stars for their brilliant minds and cold logic. Most humans found them difficult to talk to. They never laughed at jokes. They never seemed to care about anything beyond facts and data. But Lyra was different, or at least Tae-woo thought so. He opened the message and read it slowly. Tae-woo, I wish to invite you to my home on Valora Prime. You would be my guest for one cycle of our moons. This is a rare honor. Valorians do not often welcome outsiders into their private dwellings. I hope you will accept, Lyra. Tae-woo read the message 3 times. His heart beat faster with excitement. In all the time he had known Lyra, she had never invited him anywhere personal. They had worked together on missions. They had eaten meals in the station cafeteria. They had talked for hours about their different worlds. But this was something new. He was about to reply when his door chimed. It was Dae-soon, a senior diplomat who had been working with alien species for over 20 years. He was a careful man with gray hair and tired eyes. I heard about the invitation, Dae-soon said, stepping inside. Word travels fast on this station. Tae-woo raised an eyebrow. How did you know? I have my ways. Dae-soon sat down without being asked. His face was serious. I came to warn you. The Valorians never do anything without a reason. They calculate everything. If Lyra invited you to her home, she wants something from you. Tae-woo shook his head. Lyra is my friend. We have known each other for a year now. Do you really believe that? Dae-soon leaned forward. Valorians do not have friends, Tae-woo. They have interests. They have goals. But friends? That is a human concept. You are wrong about her, Tae-woo said firmly. Lyra is different. Dae-soon sighed and stood up. I have said what I came to say. Be careful, young man. The Valorians are not like us. They removed their emotions a long time ago. They see everything as a tool to be used. He paused at the door. Including you. After Dae-soon left, Tae-woo sat in silence for a long time. He thought about Lyra. He remembered the way she listened when he talked about his family. He remembered how she always found time for him, even when she was busy. He remembered the small moments that felt like something more than just professional interest. No, Dae-soon was wrong. Lyra was his friend. He typed his reply. I accept. Thank you for inviting me. The journey to Valora Prime took 3 days. Tae-woo spent most of it looking out the window at the stars. He had traveled to many alien worlds in his work as a cultural liaison officer, but he had never been to the Valorian homeworld. Few humans had. When the ship finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, Tae-woo pressed his face against the glass like a child. Valora Prime was beautiful. The planet hung in space like a pale blue jewel. 2 moons orbited around it, one silver and one gold. As the ship descended through the clouds, Tae-woo saw the surface clearly for the first time. There were no green forests or blue oceans like on Earth. Instead, there were vast plains of white crystal that stretched to the horizon. Cities of glass and metal floated above the ground, connected by bridges of pure light. Everything glowed with a soft, eternal twilight. It looks like a dream, Tae-woo whispered to himself. Lyra was waiting for him at the landing platform. She stood perfectly still, her hands folded in front of her. Her skin was pale blue, the color of a winter sky. Her eyes were silver, bright and unblinking. She wore a simple white robe that moved gently in the wind. Welcome to my world, Tae-woo, she said. Her voice was calm and musical. Taewoo stepped off the ship and took a deep breath. The air was cool and clean, with a faint smell of something sweet that he could not name. "Thank you for inviting me," he said. "This place is incredible. I am pleased you find it acceptable." Lyra turned and began walking. "Follow me. I will take you to my dwelling." They traveled through the floating city on a platform that moved silently through the air. Tae-woo looked at everything with wide eyes. The buildings were made of crystal that seemed to sing when the wind touched them. Valorians walked past in their white robes, their faces calm and empty. None of them looked at Tae-woo directly, but he felt their attention on him like a weight. Lyra's home was smaller than he expected. It was a simple structure of white walls and large windows that looked out at the endless crystal plains. But inside, Tae-woo found something that surprised him. "Is this for me?" he asked, looking around the guest room. The room had been prepared specifically for a human. The temperature was warm, not cold like the rest of the planet. The gravity had been adjusted to match Earth. There was a bed with soft blankets instead of the hard surfaces Valorians preferred. And in a small vase on the table, there were flowers. Real flowers from Earth. "I researched what would make you comfortable," Lyra said. "I wanted you to feel welcome." Tae-woo touched the petals of the flowers gently. They smelled like his mother's garden back home. Suddenly, his eyes felt wet. This is very kind of you," he managed to say. Lyra tilted her head slightly. She was watching him closely. "You are experiencing emotion. Is it positive or negative?" Tae-woo laughed and wiped his eyes. "It is positive. Very positive." "Thank you, Lyra." She nodded once. "I will leave you to rest. We will eat together when you are ready." That night, after a meal of strange but delicious alien food, Tae-woo unpacked his bags in his comfortable room. He was arranging his clothes when something made him look up at the window. Lyra was outside, standing in the twilight. She was watching him. Their eyes met through the glass. Tae-woo expected her to look away, to pretend she had not been staring. But she did not. She simply tilted her head to the side. That same curious gesture he had seen before. Her silver eyes were fixed on him with an intensity that made his skin tingle. After a long moment, she turned and walked away into the darkness. Tae-woo stood at the window for a long time after she left. He thought about Daesung's warning. He thought about the flowers from Earth and the carefully prepared room. He thought about the way Lyra watched him, like he was something precious and strange. This was not just a friendly visit. Lyra wanted something from him. He just did not know what it was yet. The days on Valora Prime passed slowly, each one filled with wonder and confusion. Lyra took Tae-woo everywhere. She showed him the great libraries that held the knowledge of 1,000 worlds. She walked with him through silent temples where Valorians sat in perfect stillness, their minds connected to vast networks of information. She took him to gardens where plants glowed with soft blue and purple light, their leaves singing quiet songs when touched. Tae-woo was amazed by everything he saw. But he was more amazed by Lyra. She was different here on her home planet. On the diplomatic station, she had always been calm and professional. But here, she seemed more intense, more focused. And that focus was always on him. On the third day, they sat together in a garden filled with flowers that changed color as they watched. Lyra had a small device in her hand, one that Tae-woo had seen her use many times before. She pressed a button and looked at him with those silver eyes. "I have a question for you," she said. "Of course," Tae-woo replied. "Ask anything. Why do humans cry when they are happy?" Tae-woo thought about it. "I am not sure. Sometimes our feelings are so strong that our bodies do not know what else to do. Tears come out whether we are sad or happy." Lyra recorded his answer on her device. She nodded slowly. That is very inefficient. Tears serve a biological purpose for sadness. They release stress chemicals. But for happiness? It makes no logical sense. Humans do not always make logical sense, Taewoo said with a small smile. Yes, Lyra said softly. I have noticed this. Over the next few days, the questions continued. They came at all times, often without warning. What does it feel like when your heart beats faster? Lyra asked one morning. It depends on why it is beating faster, Taewoo explained. If I am scared, it feels tight and uncomfortable. If I am excited, it feels light and alive. If I am near someone I care about. He paused, suddenly aware of how close Lyra was standing. It feels warm. She recorded his answer. The same biological response produces different feelings based on context. How does your body know the difference? It does not always know, Taewoo admitted. Sometimes we confuse fear with excitement. Sometimes we mistake nervousness for love. That is very imprecise, Lyra said. Yes, Taewoo agreed. It is. Another day, while Taewoo was talking to his sister Hannah through a video call, he did not notice Lyra watching from the doorway. After he ended the call, she stepped into the room. Why do you speak to her so often? Lyra asked. She is far away. She cannot help you with anything here. Taewoo smiled at the thought of his younger sister. I talk to her because I love her. Because hearing her voice makes me feel less alone. Because she is family. But she provides no practical benefit to your current situation. Love is not about practical benefits, Lyra. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she asked, what is love, exactly? Taewoo struggled to find the right words. It is caring about someone more than you care about yourself. It is wanting them to be happy, even if it costs you something. It is a connection that distance cannot break. Lyra recorded every word. Her face showed nothing, but her eyes seemed to glow brighter than usual. Taewoo began to notice other things too. When they walked through the city, he felt eyes on him. Other Valorians watched from windows and doorways. They were always at a distance, always silent, but they were definitely watching. One afternoon, a tall Valorian woman came to visit Lyra's home. She looked similar to Lyra, but older and more severe. Her eyes were darker silver, almost gray. Tae-woo, this is my elder sister Kira, Lyra said. Kira did not greet him with words. She simply looked at him from head to toe, her expression completely blank. She walked around him slowly, studying him like a scientist studying a new species of insect. May I ask you some questions? Kira finally said. Before Taewoo could answer, she began. What is your resting heart rate? What is the chemical composition of your tears? How many hours do you spend each day experiencing strong emotions? The questions were cold and clinical. Taewoo felt uncomfortable, like he was being examined rather than welcomed. Lyra stepped forward. That is enough, sister. Taewoo is my guest, not a test subject. Kira looked at Lyra with those gray eyes. Something passed between the sisters, a silent communication that Taewoo could not understand. Then Kira turned and left without another word. That night, Taewoo could not sleep. He kept thinking about Kira's questions, about the watching Valorians, about Lyra's endless curiosity. He decided to ask her directly. He found her in the main room, sitting in the darkness and looking out at the twin moons. Lyra, he said, I need to know something. Why are your people watching me? Why does your sister treat me like a specimen? Why do you record everything I say about emotions? Lyra did not turn to face him. My people are curious about humans. You are different from us. Different how? You feel things, she said quietly. Things we do not feel anymore. Taewoo sat down beside her. What do you mean? You do not feel things anymore. Everyone feels things. Not Valorians. Lyra finally looked at him. In the moonlight, her silver eyes seemed almost sad, though her face showed no expression. Many generations ago, we made a choice. Our emotions were causing destruction, wars, hatred, pain, so we removed them. We changed our biology so that we would never feel again. Tae Wu stared at her in shock. You removed your emotions? On purpose? It brought peace, Lyra said. No more wars. No more violence. We became logical and efficient. We advanced faster than any other species in the galaxy. But Tae Wu struggled to understand. Without emotions, what is the point of living? Lyra was silent for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. I do not know. That is what I am trying to understand. That night, Tae Wu had a nightmare. He dreamed of his father, who had died 3 years ago. In the dream, his father was calling his name, reaching for him, but Tae Wu could not reach back. He woke up with tears on his face and a pain in his chest that felt like a wound. He needed air. He needed to escape the small room and the memories. He stepped outside into the eternal twilight of Velora Prime. The cool air touched his wet face. He took deep breaths, trying to calm his racing heart. Then he saw her. Lyra was sitting in the corridor outside his room. She had been waiting there, watching. How long have you been here? Tae Wu asked, his voice rough from crying. Since you began making sounds in your sleep, Lyra said. I wanted to observe what happened next. Tae Wu felt a flash of anger. Observe? I was having a nightmare about my dead father, and you were observing? What is a nightmare? Lyra asked. What were you feeling just now? Your heart rate increased significantly. Your breathing became irregular. You produced tears. What was happening inside your mind? Tae Wu wanted to shout at her. He wanted to demand that she stop treating him like an experiment. But when he looked at her face, he saw something he had never seen before. Her hands were shaking slightly. Her silver eyes were wide. She looked confused and lost and almost desperate. Why do you keep watching me? Tae Wu asked quietly. Tell me the truth, Lyra. She was silent for a long moment. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked just slightly. Because you feel things we have forgotten how to feel. Because I watch you laugh, and I want to know what that feels like. Because I see your tears, and I wonder what pain really is. She paused. Because I am hollow inside, Tae Wu. And you are full of something I cannot name. Tae Wu stared at her in the pale moonlight. He understood now. The Valorians had not invited him as a friend. They had invited him as a subject of study. But Lyra's interest was different. It was personal. It was desperate. She was not trying to analyze humanity. She was trying to remember what it meant to be alive. Tae Wu did not speak to Lyra for 2 days after that night. He stayed in his room, only coming out when he needed food or water. When Lyra tried to approach him, he turned away. When she knocked on his door, he did not answer. He felt hurt and angry and confused, all at the same time. He had trusted her. He had called her his friend. And all along, she had been studying him like an animal in a cage. On the second day, he called his sister Hana. Her face appeared on the screen, warm and smiling as always. She was back on Earth, in their childhood home, and Tae Wu could see their mother's paintings on the wall behind her. You look terrible, Hana said immediately. What happened? Tae Wu told her everything. He told her about Lyra's questions, about the watching Valorians, about Kira treating him like a specimen. He told her about the conversation in the moonlight, about learning that the Valorians had removed their emotions on purpose. She was using me, Tae Wu said bitterly. All this time, I thought we were friends. But I was just a subject for her research. Hana was quiet for a moment, thinking. Are you sure about that? What do you mean? She admitted it herself. She admitted that she was watching you, Hana said slowly. But did she admit that she was only using you? Or did she say she wanted to understand what you feel? Tae-woo frowned. What is the difference? The difference is everything, brother. Hana leaned closer to the screen. Think about it. If she only wanted to study you, she could have done it from a distance. She could have let her sister ask all the questions. But instead, she invited you to her home. She prepared a room with flowers from Earth. She sat outside your door when you had a nightmare. So maybe she was not trying to use you. Maybe she just did not know how else to ask for help. Tae-woo thought about Hana's words long after the call ended. He remembered all the small moments with Lyra, the way she listened when he talked, the way she tilted her head when she was curious, the way her voice had cracked when she said she was hollow inside. Maybe Hana was right. Maybe Lyra had not been deceiving him. Maybe she had simply been reaching out in the only way her people knew how. That evening, Tae-woo left his room and went looking for Lyra. He found her in the garden of glowing flowers, sitting alone on a bench of white crystal. She looked small and still in the eternal twilight. When she heard him approach, she did not turn around. I understand if you wish to leave, she said quietly. I can arrange transport back to the station. Tae-woo sat down beside her. I do not want to leave. Not yet. Lyra finally looked at him. Her silver eyes searched his face. You were angry with me. I was confused, Tae-woo said. And hurt. I thought you were my friend, but then I found out you were studying me. Both things are true, Lyra said. I was studying you, but I also consider you a friend. In my species, we do not have the same concept of friendship that humans have. We have alliances and partnerships based on mutual benefit. But what I feel toward you, she paused, as if searching for words she did not have. It is something different, something I do not fully understand. Tae-woo took a deep breath. Tell me the truth, Lyra, all of it. What do you really want from me? Lyra was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. 600 years ago, my people made a decision. Emotions were destroying us. We had wars that killed billions. We had hatred that tore families apart. We had love that drove people to madness. Our leaders decided that the only way to survive was to remove the source of our problems. So they changed us. They modified our genes so that we would never feel again. And it worked? Yes and no. Lyra looked down at her hands. The war stopped. The hatred ended. We became peaceful and logical and efficient. Our technology advanced faster than ever before. We spread across the galaxy. By every objective measure, we succeeded. But, Tae-woo prompted, but we also lost something. Lyra's voice trembled slightly. We lost joy. We lost wonder. We lost the feeling of connection to other beings. We live for hundreds of years, but our lives feel empty. We achieve great things, but we do not feel proud. We are surrounded by beauty, but we do not feel moved by it. Tae-woo listened in silence, his heart aching for her. I first encountered humans 10 years ago, Lyra continued. I was assigned to study your species for Valorian archives. I observed your behavior, your customs, your biology, and I saw something that fascinated me. What did you see? I saw people laughing until they cried. I saw people crying until they could not breathe. I saw people sacrificing themselves for others. I saw people doing foolish, irrational, beautiful things for no logical reason at all. Lyra turned to face him fully. I saw people who were alive in a way that Valorians have not been alive for 6 centuries. Is that why you invited me here? Tae-woo asked. Yes. I thought that if I observed you closely enough, I could understand how to feel again. I thought emotions could be studied, analyzed, replicated. Lyra shook her head slowly. I was wrong. I watched you laugh, and I could not feel what you felt. I watched you cry, and I remained empty. Emotions cannot be copied from another person. They must be experienced from within. So what are you going to do? Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment, Taewoo thought he saw something glistening in them. I do not know. I have been observing emotions for years, but I still cannot create them inside myself. It is like a person who has never seen color trying to understand a sunset. They can learn the scientific facts, but they cannot experience the beauty. Tae-woo moved closer to her on the bench. Maybe you are trying too hard to analyze it. Emotions are not logical. You cannot think your way into feeling something. Then how does it happen? Lyra asked, and there was a desperation in her voice that Taewoo had never heard before. How do humans feel things? We just do, Taewoo said simply. We do not choose our emotions. They happen to us. When I see a beautiful sunset, I feel wonder. When I think about my father, I feel sadness. When I look at you right now, I feel he stopped himself. What? Lyra leaned forward. What do you feel when you look at me? Taewoo took her hand gently. Her skin was cool and smooth. I feel compassion. I feel a desire to help you. I feel connected to you, even though we are so different. Lyra looked down at their joined hands. Her expression did not change, but Taewoo noticed that she did not pull away. When you touch me like this, she said slowly, something happens inside my body. My heart rate increases slightly. There is a warmth in my chest. My thoughts become less organized. She looked up at him. Is that an emotion? Taewoo smiled gently. It might be the beginning of one. Lyra's eyes widened. For the first time, Taewoo saw something in them that looked like hope. But I thought we removed our ability to feel. I thought it was impossible. Maybe it is not completely removed, Taewoo said. Maybe it is just buried very deep. Maybe it has been asleep for 600 years and is now starting to wake up. A single tear slid down Lyra's blue cheek. She touched it with trembling fingers, looking at the moisture as if it were a miracle. I am crying, she whispered. I do not understand why, but I am crying. Sometimes we cry when we feel hope, Taewoo said softly. Sometimes we cry when we realize we are not as broken as we thought. Lyra looked at him, and for the first time, her face was not completely calm. There was something there, something struggling to emerge from beneath the surface. Will you help me? She asked. Not as a subject to study, but as a friend? Will you help me learn to feel again? Taewoo squeezed her hand. I will try. But you have to promise me something. Anything. No more watching me from windows. No more recording my answers. If we are going to do this, we do it together. Not as scientist and subject, but as two people who care about each other. Lyra nodded slowly. I promise. They sat together in the garden of glowing flowers, hand in hand, as the twin moons rose higher in the sky. Taewoo did not know if it was possible to teach someone how to feel. He did not know if Lyra's damaged emotions could truly be repaired. But he knew one thing for certain. He was willing to try. Teaching someone to feel was not easy. Tae-Woo learned this quickly in the days that followed his conversation with Lyra. He could not simply explain emotions to her the way a teacher explains mathematics. Feelings were not formulas that could be memorized. They had to be experienced. So he decided to try something different. Instead of talking about emotions, he would show her what it meant to be human. On the first morning, he woke up early and went to the kitchen in Lyra's dwelling. He had requested some ingredients from Earth, and they had arrived during the night. When Lyra found him, he was standing over a pot of boiling water. What are you doing? She asked. I am making breakfast, Taewoo said. My mother used to make this for me every Sunday morning. It is a simple dish. Rice porridge with vegetables and eggs. Lyra watched with curiosity. Valorians have machines that prepare food. This method is inefficient. This method is not about efficiency, Taewoo said. He handed her a wooden spoon. Here, stir the pot slowly. Lyra took the spoon and stirred. What is the purpose of this exercise? Just feel the warmth of the steam on your face. Smell the food as it cooks. Think about the people who have made this same dish for thousands of years. Think about my mother, standing in her kitchen, making this for her children because she loved them. Lyra stirred in silence. After a few minutes, she said, "The smell is pleasant. It reminds me of when I first met you. You were eating something similar in the station cafeteria." Tae-woo smiled. "See? You are connecting this moment to a memory. That connection is the beginning of feeling." They ate the porridge together at a small table by the window. It was not perfect. Tae-woo had used too much salt, and some of the vegetables were overcooked. But Lyra ate every bite without complaint. "When I eat food from the machines, I do not think about anything," Lyra said slowly. "I simply consume nutrients. But when I eat this food that you made with your hands, I think about your mother. I think about you standing in the kitchen. I think about the effort you put into this meal. And how does that make you feel?" Lyra considered the question carefully. "I am not sure. There is something in my chest. It is not unpleasant. It is warm." Tae-woo nodded. "That might be gratitude. Or maybe appreciation. Or maybe just connection. Whatever it is a start." Over the following days, Tae-woo continued his unconventional lessons. He found a sad movie in the station archives and watched it with Lyra. It was a simple story about a man who loses his wife and learns to live again. Tae-woo cried during the ending, as he always did. Lyra watched him cry with fascination. "Explain this to me. You knew the movie was fictional. You knew the characters were not real. Why did you produce tears?" "Because the story felt real," Tae-woo said, wiping his eyes. "I saw the man's pain, and I remembered my own pain when my father died. I saw his loneliness, and I remembered times when I felt alone. Fiction helps us experience feelings safely." Lyra looked at the screen where the credits were rolling. "I understood the story intellectually. I recognized that it was designed to create an emotional response. But I felt nothing. "That is okay," Tae-woo said gently. "This is a process. Do not try to force it." That night, Tae-woo sat outside under the twin moons and played his guitar. It was an old instrument that had belonged to his grandfather. He played a simple melody, a Korean folk song about mountains and rivers and home. Lyra came outside and sat beside him. She closed her eyes and listened. When the song ended, she said, "That was different. When you played, something happened inside me. It was like the music was vibrating in my chest." "That is the power of music," Tae-woo said. "It bypasses the logical brain and speaks directly to the heart. Will you play more?" Tae-woo played for an hour until his fingers were tired. He played happy songs and sad songs, fast songs and slow songs. When he finally stopped, Lyra's eyes were still closed. "I felt something," she whispered. "During the slow song about rain, I felt something. It was small and brief, like a tiny light flickering in darkness. But it was there." Tae-woo felt his own chest warm with happiness. "That is wonderful, Lyra. That is real progress." But not everyone was happy about Lyra's changes. A few days later, Kira arrived at the dwelling with two other Valorians in gray robes. They were members of the Valorian Council, the governing body of the planet. "Sister," Kira said coldly, "we need to speak with you, alone." Tae-woo watched from his window as Lyra spoke with her sister in the garden. He could not hear their words, but he could see their body language. Kira was rigid and stern. Lyra was tense and defensive. The conversation lasted a long time. When Lyra came back inside, she looked troubled. What did they want? Taewoo asked. They are concerned about me. They say I'm showing signs of malfunction. Lyra sat down heavily. They monitored my biological readings during our time together. They detected irregularities in my heart rate and brain activity. They believe I am experiencing something dangerous. Dangerous? What could be dangerous about feeling? Emotions were the cause of our destruction centuries ago, Lyra said. The Council believes that even small feelings could grow into something uncontrollable. They fear that if I continue on this path, I could become unstable. I could influence others to seek the same thing. I could undermine the peace that we have built. Tae-woo felt anger rising in his chest. That is ridiculous. You are not unstable. You are waking up. They do not see it that way. Lyra looked at him with those silver eyes, and for the first time, Taewoo saw real fear in them. They want me to undergo a correction procedure. They would recalibrate my brain chemistry to eliminate any emotional development. They want to erase what you have gained? Yes. Taewoo stood up. You cannot let them do that. Not after everything you have experienced. I do not want to, Lyra said quietly. When I think about returning to the emptiness, I feel something like pain. I think it might be sadness. Or maybe fear. Whatever it is, I do not want to feel it. That night, Kira came to see Taewoo privately. She found him in the garden, looking at the glowing flowers. Human, she said. We need to discuss my sister. Taewoo turned to face her. I know what you want. I think it is wrong. Kira's gray eyes were cold. You do not understand our history. You do not know what emotions did to us. The wars, the suffering, the billions of deaths. I understand that you are afraid, Taewoo said. But running from emotions does not make them go away. It just makes you hollow. Kira was silent for a moment. Then she said, Lyra is risking everything for this. Her position, her safety, her place in our society. All for something you call feeling. Yes, Taewoo said. She is. And you think this is worth it? This chaos that you call emotion? This messy, painful, irrational thing? Taewoo looked at Kira steadily. Let me ask you something. When you wake up in the morning, what do you feel? I do not feel anything. And when you go to sleep at night, what do you feel? Nothing. And in between, during all the hours of your long life, what do you feel? Kira did not answer. That is not living, Taewoo said. That is just existing. That is just waiting to die without ever really being alive. He stepped closer to her. Feeling things is painful sometimes. It is messy and confusing and often irrational. But it is also beautiful. It is what makes life worth living. Without it, you are not surviving. You are just waiting to die. Kira stared at him for a long time. Her face was completely blank, but something flickered in her eyes. Something that might have been doubt. You truly believe this? She asked finally, with all my heart. Kira turned and walked away into the darkness without another word. Taewoo watched her go, hoping that somewhere inside her cold Valorian mind, his words had planted a seed. Tomorrow, Lyra would have to make a choice. And Taewoo would stand beside her, whatever she decided. Because that is what friends do. That is what humans do. The council chamber was vast and cold, a cathedral of white crystal and pale light. Rows of Valorians sat in perfect stillness, their silver eyes fixed on the center of the room. They were dressed in gray robes, their faces as empty as blank pages. None of them moved. None of them showed any sign of feeling. Lyra stood alone in the center, facing the High Council. Her blue skin seemed to glow in the pale light. Her hands were steady at her sides, but Taewoo could see the slight tremor in her shoulders. He stood at the edge of the chamber, the only human in a sea of cold alien faces. Kira sat among the High Council, her gray eyes fixed on her younger sister. She was the one who had called this gathering. She was the one who had demanded that Lyra be judged. Lyra of the third house, the lead counselor said, his voice flat and mechanical. You have been observed displaying signs of emotional development. Your biological readings show irregularities that are inconsistent with Valorian norms. You have been spending time with a human who has been teaching you to feel. Do you deny these accusations? Lyra lifted her chin slightly. I do not deny them. A murmur passed through the crowd. Even without emotions, the Valorians seemed disturbed by her words. You understand that this is a serious matter, the counselor continued. Emotions were removed from our species for a reason. They are dangerous. They are destructive. They nearly destroyed our civilization 600 years ago. I understand the history, Lyra said. Then you understand why we cannot allow this to continue. The council has decided that you must undergo a correction procedure. Your brain chemistry will be recalibrated to eliminate any emotional development. You will return to normal functioning. Ta Wu felt his hands clench into fists. He wanted to shout, to protest, to do something. But he was just a guest here. He had no power in this chamber. Lyra was silent for a long moment. Every eye in the room was on her. Then she spoke, and her voice was different than before. It was not flat or mechanical. It trembled slightly, like a leaf in the wind. I refuse. The chamber fell completely silent. No Valorian had refused a council order in centuries. You refuse? The lead counselor repeated. That is not an option. I understand that you believe emotions are dangerous, Lyra said. I was taught the same thing my entire life. I believed it completely. But I have learned something in these past days. Something that I never expected to discover. She turned slowly, looking at the faces around her. Look at us. Look at what we have become. We live for hundreds of years, but what do we live for? We have great knowledge, but what good is knowledge without wonder? We have peace, but what is peace without joy? Lyra took a deep breath. Ta Wu could see tears forming in her silver eyes. 600 years ago, we made a choice. We removed our emotions to end our suffering. And it worked. The suffering ended. But so did everything else. We stopped feeling pain, but we also stopped feeling love. We stopped feeling sadness, but we also stopped feeling hope. We became safe, but we became empty. Her voice cracked, and a single tear rolled down her blue cheek. I am afraid, she said, and the words seemed to shock the crowd. I am afraid of what you might do to me. I am afraid of losing what I have gained. But I am also hopeful. For the first time in my life, I feel hopeful that things can be different. She turned to face the council directly. I am alive, she said. For the first time in 300 years of existence, I am truly alive. And I will not let you take that away from me. The chamber erupted into chaos. Valorians who had never shown expression began arguing with each other. Some demanded that the Lyra be corrected immediately. Others seemed uncertain. And a few, just a few, were looking at her with something that might have been curiosity. Kira stood up from her seat among the High Council. The room fell silent as she walked toward her sister. Her gray eyes were fixed on Lyra's face. You are crying, Kira said softly. I have not seen a Valorian cry in 600 years. It hurts, Lyra whispered. But it also feels right. I cannot explain it better than that. Kira stared at her sister for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone in the chamber. She reached out and touched a tear on Lyra's cheek. I remember crying, Kira said, her voice barely audible. It was so long ago, when our mother died. I cried for days. The pain was unbearable. She looked at the moisture on her fingers. But the memory of that pain is the only time I truly felt alive. The lead counselor stood up. Kira, what are you doing? You are supposed to judge her, not sympathize with her. Kira turned to face the council. Her face was still blank, but there was something different in her eyes. Something struggling to emerge. I have wondered, she said slowly. For many years, I have wondered what we lost when we removed our emotions. I never spoke of it because it was not logical. But Lyra's words have made me realize something. She looked at her sister, then at Taewoo, then back at the council. We did not just remove our weakness. We removed our soul. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Kira continued, her voice growing stronger. I will not vote to correct my sister. She is not malfunctioning. She is evolving. She is becoming something that we forgot how to be. And perhaps... She paused, as if surprised by her own words. Perhaps she is showing us a path we should all consider. The vote that followed was close. Many Valorians voted to correct Lyra, but many others, influenced by Kira's words, voted to spare her. In the end, the vote was tied. The lead counselor looked troubled. A tied vote. This has not happened in centuries. Then allow me to break the tie, Kira said. I vote to spare my sister, and I vote that she be allowed to continue her journey, wherever it may lead. The chamber erupted again, but this time, the chaos felt different. Less angry, more uncertain, like a species that was beginning to question everything it believed. After the gathering ended, Taewoo found Lyra outside the council chamber. She was standing alone, looking up at the twin moons. Her face was wet with tears, but she was smiling. Actually smiling. You were amazing in there, Taewoo said. Lyra turned to him. I was terrified. My heart was beating so fast I thought it would stop working. That is what bravery feels like, Taewoo said. Being afraid but doing it anyway. Lyra looked back at the chamber doors. Kira spoke for me. I never expected that. I think you reached something inside her. Something she did not know was still there. They walked together through the Crystal City, away from the chamber and its politics. The streets were quiet, but Taewoo noticed that some Valorians were looking at Lyra differently now. Not with disapproval, but with curiosity. With hope. What will you do now? Taewoo asked. I cannot stay here, Lyra said. The council spared me, but many Valorians will see me as dangerous. I would be watched constantly. Every feeling I showed would be analyzed and questioned. So, what do you want to do? Lyra stopped walking and looked at him. In the moonlight, her silver eyes seemed brighter than ever. I want to come with you, she said. Back to the station. Back to humans. I cannot undo 600 years of conditioning overnight. I still have so much to learn about feeling. But I want to learn. She took his hand gently. And I want to learn with you, beside me. Taewoo squeezed her hand. I would like that very much. A week later, they were aboard a ship leaving Valora Prime. Taewoo stood at the window, watching the pale blue planet grow smaller in the distance. Lyra stood beside him, her reflection visible in the glass. What does it feel like to miss someone? She asked. Suddenly, Taewoo looked at her. Why do you ask? I am thinking about Kira, about my home. I am wondering if I will ever see them again. Lyra touched her chest. There is an ache here. It is not painful exactly, but it is heavy. Is that what missing someone feels like? Taewoo nodded. Yes, that is exactly what it feels like. It is not pleasant, Lyra said. But somehow, I do not want it to stop. Does that make sense? It makes perfect sense. It means that you love something enough for it to matter. And that love leaves a mark on your heart, even when the person or place is far away. Lyra was quiet for a moment, processing his words. Then a single tear slid down her cheek. She did not wipe it away. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For teaching me to be human. Tae-woo smiled and put his arm around her shoulders. They stood together at the window, watching the stars as the ship carried them toward a future filled with messy, painful, beautiful feelings. Far behind them, on Valora Prime, Kira stood alone in her dwelling. She was looking at a small flower from her garden, turning it slowly in her fingers. For the first time in 300 years, she wondered what it might feel like to cry. And somewhere deep inside her hollow chest, the tiniest spark of something began to glow.